Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, where last episode we finished the trial victorious as Gina Lestrade got a not guilty verdict after we forced Inspector Gregson to admit the deal he made, leaving Ashley Graydon cornered, confessing everything including his killing of Magnus McGill as revenge for the murder of his father at the end of our first Old Bailey trial. After having some words with our prosecutorial opposition with a link to the Japanese further teased, we now celebrate with the acquitted. It's done. It's over at last. But where's Iris disappeared to? Congratulations, Gina! I knew it all along. I knew that you were innocent. Well, you did what you said, Mr. Naruhodo. You believed in me, right up to the end. You're as odd as your name. What's odd about it? I told you I had faith in you, didn't I? No one ever has before, see? Kept a promise, properly. That's awful. I figured something out today. All my life, growing up in the slums, I've never trusted no one. Well, that's just because I've been scared of being stabbed in the back. I mean, the more you trust someone, the more it hurts when they let you down. Yes, I think I can understand that. After all, I had a taste of it in that trial 2 months ago. I chose to trust someone and paid for it. That betrayal left a big scar. You know though, Gina, I've worked something out quite recently too. Trusting in someone else is really an exercise in learning to trust yourself. And when your gut tells you it's the right thing to do and your trust is rewarded, there's no better feeling in the world. I think I have you to thank for reminding me of that valuable lesson. Oh, well, if you say so. Don't make a fat lot of sense to me, though. I'm trying to say that putting my faith in you, Gina, has been a real pleasure. For crying out loud, pack it in! But I suppose I sort of feel the same way. I mean, sometimes trusting someone else is, you know, all right. Thanks. This is the way I see it, Ryunosuke. A defense lawyer is only as good as his faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself. After this experience, I'm starting to feel like I understand what you mean. Kazuma, am I living up to your expectations? Am I turning out to be the lawyer you believed I could be? Pardon the interruption. But what the juice does a man have to do to be noticed around here, my dear fellow? That voice! It's too late for that voice now, Mr. Naruhodo. I've been standing here patiently in the corner of the room for an eternity. Yes, it was me all along, I would have said when finally you noticed me. But you people, with your incessant babbling. Mr. Sholmes. Yes, it was me all along, you see? Wow, doesn't like being outside of the center of attention for a little bit, does he? I'd assumed you'd been taken back to the hospital, to be honest. Indeed I was, but I managed to escape again. Oh. I happened to be aware of 1 or 2 foibles that the doctor was tending to me. I merely made my knowledge of them known to the man, and he happily issued me a leave of absence. How very above board. But enough of my adventures. That was a fine victory, Mr. Naruhodo. Your tireless efforts justly rewarded, I feel. Congratulations are in order. As a close friend, I tip my hat at you. Oh, thank you. Some great detective you are. Great at being cold as ice, maybe. Have I irked you in some way, Miss Lestrade? While you've been having a snooze in your nice soft bed, some of us have been fighting for our lives. Well, that bullet did cause me to lose a substantial amount of blood, it's true. So I have indeed been feeling somewhat cold. Not perhaps as cold as ice, but, well, have a feel. Could you take your hands off my neck, please, Mr. Sholmes? And in some way, I suppose, congratulations are in order for you too, Mr. Strahd. What's that supposed to mean? What's so half-hearted? Well, naturally, it isn't my intention to alarm you, but... an acquittal in a trial with that particular prosecutor is perhaps a little precarious. Well done, Mr. Sholmes. Not alarming in the slightest. Oh, the Reaper, you mean? Because anyone who's found not guilty in a trial he was working on winds up dead anyway? Is that it? The very point I was trying to make. As exemplified by the fate of Mr. McGilded, in fact. Ah, but of course, I pay no attention to such irrational drivel myself. Yeah, well, it don't bother me. Oh, really? Of course not. The way I see it, the Reaper's a bit like, him upstairs. Him upstairs? You mean like God? Yeah, him upstairs knows what's what, right? He knows what people are like on the inside. He won't have got the wrong end of the stick. There's some coves like that bog trotter what are rotten to the core. At the end of the day, I'm upstairs, or him upstairs, make sure they get what they deserve. I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Divine justice is one thing, though. The Reaper taking matters into his own hands and claiming lives is another. Well, I ain't like the McGildeds of this world, so I ain't scared. I got principles, see? A trait in you which is to be admired, Mr. Strahd. Oi, just give a rest, alright? As I was saying, congratulations are in order. The news of your acquittal was very welcome news to me indeed. Let me express my heartfelt congratulations. Gina. Well, there you are, Hurley! How long have you been here? Honestly, I went to the main entrance especially to meet you there. Ah, Ilis, my dear, I do apologize. But wait until I tell you what happened. This pair made out of fools of themselves. What happened? As you know, I have a penchant for disguise. I was hiding in this room dressed as a bailiff. But these dolts didn't notice my presence at all. They had no idea. Can you imagine, Iris? Would you credit it? I'm not sure, really. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, Hurley, but you just don't have the weighty presence you seem to think you have. In fact, you really ought to be careful about that. It's going to land you in trouble one day. I'll be careful. Ouch. Anyway, it's such a shame. I was so hoping to throw a party for Guinea tonight. But you won't be able to come, will you? Don't look like I'm gonna be going nowhere for a while. You heard the judge's power. I've got stuff to make amends for, apparently. All of them offences. What was it again? Breaking and entering, taking the bog trot stuff, what was in lug, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I think you'll find that basically being a pickpocket is the main offence. But diving ain't an offence. It's a job, innit? I don't think so. Still, it has got me thinking all this. Maybe I should start looking for another line of work. I mean, you didn't start off as a lawyer, did you, Odo? Well, no, but I was never a pickpocket. Well, anyway, I reckon I could make a change. I gotta do something for all of them lot like me from the slums. Something that makes a difference for them. That's a wonderful idea, Guinea, and I'm sure you can do it. What is it? Aw, bit of a cry. Nothing. Miss Gina Lestrade! The prison carriage has arrived, ma'am. Come with me to the rear gate at once. Right. Well, looks like I'm off then. Yes. Goodbye, Gina. And good luck. Odo? Yes? Ah! What was that for? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say, so... Ah, indeed. Perhaps the situation calls for a phrase hitherto missing from your vocabulary, Miss Lestrade. Eh? On occasions such as this, I would recommend a simple thank you. Oh. Oh, yes. It's good advice, Skinny. Right, I see. Well... thanks, Odo. Thank you for everything what you've done. For believing in me. Not at all. In fact, that should be my line. Thank you, Gina. Well, there she goes. I wonder if I'll ever see her again. Well, well, quite the indomitable pick purse. Oh, I nearly forgot. I bought a paper outside. It's a special edition, and this trial is all over the front page. Pickpocket's innocence proven. Isn't it wonderful? You should have shown it to Gina, Iris. She would have been thrilled. Oh no, how silly of me. But anyway, would you like the good news or the bad news? Not again. Well, what do you say, Bruno? Hurley? As usual, I think I'd rather get the bad news out of the way first. Absolutely not. I have no intention of listening to anything but good news. And there you have it. How people answer that question says a lot about them, doesn't it? Let's not go there. Alright then, maybe let's start with the good news this time. The rain has finally stopped. It was a record level of rainfall, apparently. Well, that is good news indeed. We can journey back in greater comfort. Alright then, what's the bad news? The huge storm has left the seas very choppy. The channel in particular is awful, so sailings out Dover has been delayed by a day or more. Wait, Dover? That's right. If we head to the station immediately, we may still make it in time to wave Susie off. But there won't be a train. Surely, we couldn't be that lucky. Who do you think I am, Mr. Naruhodo? Mr. Sholmes. I rushed to Victoria Station earlier and made arrangements for a special express. If we hurry now, we shall be there in time for dinner. And I know of a fine restaurant that serves the most delicious baked sole. The great detective does it again. Indeed he does. I happen to be aware of a number of the rail transport director's foibles, and beware of a number of them too, eh? What? I merely made my knowledge of them known to the man, and he happily laid on the locomotive. Elementary. Just an idea, but it might be wise to stop manipulating people that way. What are we waiting for then? To London, Victoria. So on the 18th of April at 5:32 a.m. at the port of Dover, quayside. That took somewhat longer than I had anticipated. Susie's boat must be about to leave now. Miss Susato, where are you? Over there, look! It looks like she's reading something. Hold it! Miss Susato, wait! What are you doing? Mr. Naruhodo, what are you doing here? We came as soon as we could after the trial. I mean, we heard that sailings were being delayed due to the bad weather, you see. Oh, I see. Then tell me, how did Gina's trial go? It went well. She was acquitted. That's wonderful. Really wonderful news. The book you were about to throw into the sea. It was your encyclopedia of British law, wasn't it? Oh dear, I was hoping you hadn't seen that. I'm not worthy of practicing law in any way now. So, I was saying my final farewell. You were saying goodbye to law. You, Susato-san. Would I be correct in assuming it's because of the peephole, Miss Susato? I deliberately altered the scene of a crime, and then I tried to hide the fact. What I did is utterly unforgivable. That reminds me. How did you even come to have this, Susie? On the evening of the incident, Mr. Sholmes had invited Gina to dinner, if you remember. Oh yes, we had a wonderful time. Well, Gina gave us a little introductory lesson, didn't she? To the art of pickpocketing, I mean. Oh, that was so much fun! I stole Runa's armband! Yes, please don't do that again, Iris. That band's very important to me. Well, if it's so important, you should pay more attention to it. You didn't notice for ages. On a whim, I thought it would be fun to see if I could take the cat flapper mat, so I put it up my sleeve. Really? And then I rather forgot about it. How it's heavy, isn't it? Until I found myself in Mr. Winterbank's shop with it later that night. I see. And then... Ah! Mr. Sholmes! Mr. Sholmes! Leave me, Mr. Naruhodo. Right. After Mr. Naruhodo had left the shop, I started to think. That door started to play on my mind. The storeroom door, you mean? Yes. If Gina was anywhere in the shop, I realized it could only be behind that door. And at that moment, the little device that I had up my sleeve sprang to mind. I was so worried about Gina, I simply had to know. So, you used the cat flapper mat to make the peephole in the door. As captured in the photographic print of the shop. By one of Hurley's red-handed recorders. Indeed, it was of the first importance, that point. Precisely when the peephole was made, that information would prove to be Mr. Naruhodo's greatest weapon. Though naturally, without proof, it would have amounted to nothing. When I looked through the hole in the door, the sight that met my eyes made my blood run cold. Thoughts started to run through my mind. I remembered that trial 2 months earlier. The trial of Magnus McGilded. I thought about how he had manipulated the evidence and arranged false testimony to secure his freedom. It made the British justice system feel very dark and sinister to me. And then a terrible thought occurred to me. What if some wicked criminal was planning to do the same thing now? Because from the appearance of the crime scene, it looked exactly as though Gina had shot Mr. Winterbank. Even though I was sure she would never have done such a thing. You were worried that the true culprit would try to frame her for the crime. That's right, but then I realized. It would be very difficult for anyone to give false testimony in this case. What do you mean? Well, the crime appeared to have happened behind the door of a locked room. Someone to claim falsely to have witnessed it, there would have to be a way to see beyond the door. Ah. For which, a peephole would be the very thing. Only the peephole I had made wasn't actually there until after the crime had been committed, of course. And the criminal would know that, so it wouldn't make any difference. But the possibility of a rather ingenious trap was there, was it not? A trap? Is that why she did it? So, is that why you kept it a secret, Susie? You never mentioned that you made the peephole to anyone, not even to the police. I know, and I knew at the time what I was doing was wrong. A criminal offense, even. That's why I decided to confide in Mr. Sholmes. If Mr. Naruhodo was completely backed into a corner with no other possible means of escape, the truth about the peephole could save him. That was my plan. She really does think of everything. But then, why didn't you just tell me everything before the trial began? My dear fellow, you're not thinking straight. If you had done that, it would have rendered you complicit in the whole escapade. Ah. You could have been disbarred if you had been seen to have been knowingly tampered. You could have been disbarred if you had been seen to have knowingly tampered with a crime scene. Gotta get the sentence right. So Miss Susato decided to shoulder the burden of responsibility alone. For your sake, and Mr. Lestrade's. Miss Susato. The truth is, when it happened, I did it because I'd lost a little of my faith in the law. Oh. I was worried that the right person wouldn't be convicted of the crime. But the moment I allowed myself to think that is the moment I lost my right to call myself a judicial assistant. What you did isn't comparable to what he did. Graydon is the one who lied in the witness stand, using that peephole as a way to implicate Gina. And besides, if the peephole inconsistency hadn't existed, I'm not at all sure that she would have been acquitted in the end. Miss Susato, what you did saved Gina's life. Well, with your kind words, Mr. Naruhodo, you've saved me too, from my regrets. Well, we must all be thankful that Mr. Lestrade's freedom has been assured. Yes, exactly. Although some of the loose ends in that trial will continue to play on my mind, I'm sure. The revelation that the music box disc contains secret messages, Mr. Naruhodo. What a triumph to work that out. I'm full of admiration. Well, actually, that argument wasn't quite as compelling as I thought it was. Oh, it wasn't? There was a communications officer among the jury members, you see. A telegraph operator. And she said that the majority of the sounds on the disc were just meaningless tones. As one would expect. After all, we are talking about secret government communications. No doubt they were written in cipher to avoid being readily understood should they have been intercepted. In cipher? I see. So then we could never have hoped to understand the message anyway. Nonsense, my dear fellow. It's quite a zero-pipe problem, I assure you. A. So-gi? What? What? Well, that can't be a real word, can it? How funny. Wait, Iris, what did you just say? Oh, I just said asogi. Does that word mean something to you? Mean something? Asogi was the name of my best friend. What? But how? How do you know that name, Iris? I wrote it down during the trial before, when the message was playing on the music box. She transcribed it on the fly. She really is a genius. I thought the message probably wouldn't be written out in plain Morse code, so I tried various ways to interpret it. But whatever I tried, the words just didn't seem to make any sense. That is, in English at least. Oh! It suddenly occurred to me, you see. There's more than one Morse code, not just the English variety. Various countries around the world have altered and added to Morse code to use it in their own languages. I don't believe it. Are you saying... That's right. I've only actually seen a chart of Japanese Morse code once before. But I think it's based on the Iroha pangram, isn't it? And you mean to say that in Japanese Morse code, the message says asogi? Yes, I think so. Sorry, but I don't remember all of the Japanese Morse code. Iris, would you let me see that? Miss Susato, do you know it? Do you know Japanese Morse code? Yes, I spent some time studying it. Super intelligent, because I'm quite sure Morse code will become ever more important for international communications. Then might I recommend, my dear madame, that you focus your efforts on the English version? Be that as it may, Iris, show me the message, please. Of course. But But what could this possibly mean? Whatever is in that long sequence of supposedly meaningless dots and dashes, it's made the color drain from Susato-san's face. There's no doubt that this message is written in Japanese Morse code. So the British Empire has been using Japanese for its secret communications. I don't understand the reason why, but the message appears to be a list of 4 people's names. 4 names? The first is Kei Asogi. Kazuma Asogi. Why? Why was his name on that disc? The second is A. Shin. Shin? I don't recognize that name. The third is T. Gregson. Gregson? It would seem Tobias Gregson is the third man on the list. And what's his name doing in a secret government communication as well? And last name. What's the matter, Miss Susato? It's just so strange, so unexpected. Oh, what is it, Susie? Don't keep us in suspense. The last name is J. Wilson. What? Wilson? John H. Wilson? You mean Daddy? It says only J. Wilson, so I'm afraid I can't be sure. Then, after the 4 names, it reads, if I translate from Japanese, that is all 4. And that's the end of the message. Or rather, the end of what you noted down, Iris. I just can't believe it. Who would ever have thought that those discs contain Japanese Morse code? Not to mention a strange list of some disturbingly familiar names. It would appear that this particular message is a communication of some kind between Great Britain and the Empire of Japan. So Daddy could be in Japan then, where Susie and Runo come from. Oh, well... no, it's not very likely really, is it? I mean, there are thousands of people with the surname Wilson, and there must be lots of J's among them. Professor John H. Wilson, visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yumei University. We can't tell Iris about that now. We just can't. This is so strange. Somehow, in solving the case of Mr. Windibank's murder today, I feel like I've rolled back a boulder at the mouth of a very dark cave. I do wonder if perhaps it's a dark cave that we shouldn't go wandering inside. Oh dear, the ship is going to set sail soon. Yes, it seems so. I'll sail on that steamship first to the port of Dunkirk in France. Then I'll change onto a larger passenger vessel bound for Japan. You're really going then, Susie? We wish you safe passage, Miss Susato. Thank you so much. I wish all of you the very best. Miss Susato, I had hoped to have you always at my side, to guide me and support me. Mr. Naruhodo, please, come back soon. As far as I'm concerned, you really are the very best judicial assistant in the world. I'm quite sure I'll be back before you know it. Really, Susie? Oh, now don't forget, Iris, I made you a promise I've yet to fulfill. A promise? About your manuscript? Ah! Oh yes, the Hound of the Baskervilles. Well, I'll be waiting for you then, Susie. A promise is a promise. Definitely, Iris. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Do you remember the first time we met? Yes, of course. On the SS Burlia, when I was dragged out from that wardrobe, still half asleep. If I remember rightly, you threw me halfway across the cabin with a Susato takedown. You know very well that I'm talking about after that. It's strange, but being thrown together as we were in that case, I somehow felt straight away that you were the perfect person to continue Kazuma-sama's great legacy. Miss Susato. And my instincts were right. I really want to believe. No, I'm sure that I'll be back soon. Farewell until then.
Somehow we seem to have come to the end of the adventures of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Or the first volume, at least. Looking back now, it feels as though fate has led me on this journey. Fate led me to becoming a lawyer, to traveling halfway around the world, to meeting the great detective. I'm sure there'll be trials and tribulations ahead. Of course there will. But whatever happens, I know I'll be able to turn my fortunes around. After all, I have the greatest friends in the world on my side.
Ah, yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, Mr. Sholmes? I have some rather awkward news. The railway company has decided to sue over the special express train, apparently. Ah! It caused such a commotion on the line, all the other trains had to wait at stations. But really, we would never have made it to Dover in time otherwise. Anyway, I explained everything and how it was all your fault. What? I believe a formal complaint should be delivered to your office tomorrow. But not to worry, my dear fellow. According to Miss Susato, you love defending yourself in court. It's alright. I'm perfectly happy to testify. He really didn't look like the sort of man who'd do something so outrageous. See? Mr. Sholmes? Yes? A word, if you don't mind. Before I push you off into the water. Why, certainly. Any word you like. Bellow it out, my dear fellow. Oh, yes. I love Runo's words, and I know just the one he'll use. Then, I really must say...
Objection!
And so there it is. Great Ace Attorney Adventures has come to its end. We have a little bit more to do in the terms of the bonus episodic DLC extra fun little weird cases. In the following weeks, hundreds of music boxes arrived at Baker Street from all over Europe. Something was afoot, although it transpired I had ordered them all myself. So I advertised them for sale with used by Mr. Sholmes to solve an important case. And the money I've earned consulting detective work pays a pittance by comparison. And Sholmes knows how to push things to his advantage then, doesn't he? But we still got a little bit more to go before we move on to our next story. I haven't slept a wink. The manuscript is due tomorrow now. When I'm this busy, Hurley usually cooks me breakfast. Well, cooks is an overstatement for some dry toast and insipid coffee. I do miss Susie and her lovely Japanese breakfasts. But most importantly, we've got a game that's literally designed to have a sequel on it. to lead into it, to lead us into another case, to build to something else entirely.
Witness, your testimony is riddled with contradictions.
Exactly. Rarely do rare common coins hide under rare stakes themselves. Well, I don't know, son. Knows his father's an innocent man. Why are you calling my son a liar? Witnesses, my courtroom is no place for your petty arguments. So with that little bit of extra to do, we'll do that before we move on. But it's interesting that the story is meant to span more than one. And probably a good way to do things to introduce people to new systems. Having delivered the Russian dancers to shore in Shanghai, I laid low on the steamship for a while. But last night, I apprehended an extremely suspicious Japanese national on board. I've done nothing wrong! All I did was give Wagahai's offspring refuge in my pocket. A man brings some kittens on board and suddenly he's a hardened criminal. It's not fair! You left Wagahai behind because you couldn't take a cat, but you took the kittens? What? What's the logic in that, man? A scientific investigation will be the gold standard for policing in the new age. I dream of a world governed by the tenets of order and discipline. Like a great clock, in fact, whose hundreds of parts mesh together in perfect unison. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have but 2 minutes and 37 seconds until my next appointment. I'm very excited to see where this story goes. Because we had our tutorial over, well, you could say the first 3 sections of this, with the 3rd and the 5th being the big story link bits. The latest Rants magazine is out, and I'm in it again. Whenever I say that one line she wrote now, I'll get a standing ovation. Want to hear it? Not bad, I suppose, for an amateur. You've been given some extra tea there, Gregson. Spending no time behind bars yourself. A ladyship puts me to shame. I do wonder. But of course, when I say the 3rd and the 5th were the main story bits, of course it's the whole game is the main story bits. Maybe less 4, but of course we don't know where that will tie into everything else. Do we? The further bits, there were characters that appeared, that never appeared again. They're thinking about it. Revisiting the old girl on a daily basis, of course. Joanie, my old jailbird. Must say, battling with those bally stairs every day has done wonders for the dicky peg. Managing rather well with the housework too. Got this maid business taped up, I say. Hope the gossiping neighbours don't realise the man of the house is his own maid. Hi, Mr. Garrett. That's the point. There were like people who literally showed up in outside Sasuke's house, but then never showed up again. What? My Rolly's back on the beat again. All thanks to the Reaper. There's nothing I enjoy more these days than hunting out small change in the gutter. I'm a better Bobby now, looking out for Londoners, their drop halfpennies, and my lovely wife. Oh, Pratt. Oh, Rolly. Well, they're still well in love then. I love like the artwork on this game as well, like just the backgrounds with the 3D models. And they're very picturesque, aren't they? They look very pretty together then. Looks like I'm going to be doing time for a bit now. But Iris comes every day for an hour, so it ain't too boring. She's always going on about all them cases what Sholmes is looking into. Criminal investigations are kind of interesting. When you get into them. Okay then. Well, I do wonder what the job prospects were of someone who went into prison back then. I mean, they're still not exactly great now, are they? Yes, I renounced my upbringing and chose a life of sophisticated crime. But regrets? Please. Give over, bruv. That ain't the Ash we used to know. We got time in here to plan the comeback of Milverton to Skulker's milk run, right? The three Muskawatsits. Look in the neighborhood for all it's worth. If they just get back into Milk Company and they appear in the next game, I'll be quite happy, actually. Though, to be honest, I don't ever see Ashley Graydon getting out of jail. Also, the other two shot someone too. Well, one of them shot someone, one of them didn't, but accomplices. To murder. This past 6 months has been a time I shall remember forevermore. Painful goodbyes and wonderful encounters. I kind of realized that's what life is all about. Naruhodo-san, I promise, your assistant will return to you one day. But for now, I leave you with many memories and a heartfelt wish that life will treat you well. Now do not go into my room. Stay out. Where's the layer where I get sued by the train company and then? Thumbnail. And there you have it. The Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Finn. But of course there's more credits! So, it's actually quite massive how much better this game is with the formula that it has in it than you could say the more recent Phoenix Wright games. And I'd say the reason behind that is, of course, as they get to try with the property with new scratch, they're not beholden to too much outside, like, you know, like canon that's been spread over God knows how long and characters that you have to keep bouncing in and out. They got to start afresh with a lot of people. So, of course, with the Herlock Sholmes property in there as well, probably giving it some restrictions. Hence the restriction of how long it managed to come over here to Western Shores in a localized way. Of course, there were fan translations out well before. It's all about that localization when it's there for the general audience. They took the formula and the things they added to it were a lot better. The jury system is a nice way to mix up the trials, though you could almost say maybe using it 2 times in a thing is a bit crazy, but it does mean that the trials themselves aren't just straightforward. Oh, Kazma's leaving him behind. Aw. They aren't just a straightforward, just, you know, reading, presenting, pressing. What it does is it allows it just to break up the trial section. The investigation sections are far ahead of what has been presented in Phoenix Wright. Susato, we're going to carry that sword onwards. Ready? Often boosted, of course, by Sholmes and his zany presence being the comic relief, you could say, for the most part. Just the weird ups and downs of his character. Presented in an endearing way, with the women in the lives here just massively better in every single way. Like, I still think Susato should be like the person who was the lawyer in a sense, but I understand time, place, yada yada. Date, period, yada yada. The investigations were just monstrously better. Again, what they basically did for the trials with the jury sections, they managed to do with the investigations with the dance of deductions, where it isn't, again, just simply talking to people, looking at items, presenting items. They made a little game in the middle of it to then break up that stuff. You could almost make it akin to when you're playing a more standard game like a JRPG, or an RPG in general, when you're going through a dungeon and you're doing a dungeon for quite a long time, and then the boss fight comes. It's essentially that. You've got your mini boss, you've got your main boss. It's the things that split up the content. You've got your big story-based cutscenes. For quite a while, you spend some time in the town. Then you're out in a dungeon again. You've got your mini boss. It's that kind of structure that breaks things up and allows you to keep refreshing your palette with what you're playing. And that was what the Great Ace Attorney seemed to bring to the fold. Now, I do understand as well that the reason for that is the original, director for the first few games worked on this, while the spin-off studio actually worked on the latest Phoenix Wright games. So the head ideas guys, in a sense, came over to this spin-off, started doing the spin-offs, and push the series in a different way where they were bound by a structure for the other ones, for the main line. And because they were able to break out the structure, we could just see Phoenix Wright, if and when he returns, get stronger too. But it wouldn't surprise me if this endears itself more with the other line now that we've got going on. Ryunosuke Naruhodo is ready to go. Fire me some stuff, Gina. Wouldn't surprise me. But then, of course, we haven't seen the other game of this Chronicles pairing. So I don't know how definitively any story ends. But what is a definitive story ending for Phoenix Wright? You know what I mean? So I'm kind of hoping that in some point in time, Phoenix Wright, side of Ace Attorney, gets this kind of rub. Gets new ideas, new systems. After all, it was teasing the jury system well early on. And this is where they delivered. It'll be very interesting to start game 2. Wouldn't you say? But before that, we have a little bit more. We have the extra little weird episodes that are prevalent for later on. So we get a lovely little bit of art here. So we'll be doing that over the coming days, and then shortly starting the sequel, seeing where the story leads. Isn't that the great thing of having a duology, right? Isn't that the great thing of having a duology? That we can just go straight into it. Soon. So that was it for the main story of the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. We continue on with our extra bits next time, and then shortly we will begin our sequel. For the Great Ace Attorney 2, Resolve awaits us. Join me in the future for more. I hope you enjoyed this Let's Play thus far. And we will start another one shortly. I'll see you guys around in the future. Bye-bye.